trip to the Supreme Court. And sure enough, Sheriff Prince and I were summoned to the United States Supreme Court on December 4th, 1996. And on June 27th, 1997, the United States Supreme Court, in a 5-4 split decision, ruled that the Brady Bill was indeed unconstitutional and that it violated the 10th Amendment and that the states were not subject to federal direction and that the federal government could not tell us what to do any more than we could tell them. Yeah. Now, let's go over this a little bit, shall we? Let's see what this case really did for America. Now, let me tell you, first of all, that I've learned since then, and in fact, just in the past few years, I've learned, who is it in our government that's responsible to enforce Supreme Court decisions? The rulings of the Supreme Court are not enforced by the Supreme Court, are they? Who's the executor of the federal government that is to execute or be the executor of the laws and rulings? Well, it's the president. You think Clinton's going to have anything to do with enforcing this? He does just the opposite. He has Janet Reno issue a memo to all chiefs and sheriffs telling them to ignore this decision and to keep doing what they're doing. And then after that, the National Insta Check takes the place of the background checks that the sheriffs are doing. And so now that is the Brady Bill. Okay? Now, this decision did not stop the background checks. The Supreme Court didn't say whether that was constitutional or not. They left that alone. They said even much broader and much more powerful that the states or their political subdivisions could not be compelled to enforce or administer, quote, a federal regulatory program, end quote. Now, folks, when I say a federal regulatory program, what comes to your mind? Nationalized socialistic health care. Well, I'll be darned. Yeah, that's been in the news a little bit lately, hasn't it? Do you know that according to this decision, there is not one state in this union that has to participate with nationalized socialistic health care? Do you know that the state of Washington can tell Barack Obama to keep his socialistic health care and keep it out of this state and that we're not going to go along with it? Do you know that if you have a county commissioner with a county sheriff and a county attorney that they can stop every abuse coming from Washington, D.C.? Do you know that you can get your freedom back here? Listen to this. This is on page 7 of this most amazing freedom document. Something that was hidden from you because Clinton and the media did a great job of making sure you never heard about any of this. Now the Tea Party movement has awakened this, has revived this case, and has me going all across the country telling people about it. And now, can you believe I'm actually going to be talking about this on the steps of the Capitol in Albany, New York? Do you see how far this is going? Wow. Page 7, top of the page. It is incontestable that the Constitution established a system of dual sovereignty. Although the states surrendered many of their powers to the new federal government, they retained a residuary and inviolable sovereignty. Okay, Washington is sovereign. Just says so, right? The states retained an inviolable sovereignty. Yes, we surrendered, and Scalia actually made a mistake there. He said many powers. We surrendered a few. And he actually corrects it here in just a minute, and I'll show you. But if Washington were really sovereign, don't you think you could run your own geography? That you would be in control of your own land, your own water, your own air, that farmers could farm how they wanted with no federal regulations telling them what to farm, when to plant, when to plow, or ranchers could actually, and that your logging industry would be thriving and wouldn't have the EPA shutting you down like they did in Arizona. They shut our logging industry down there, and it wasn't cactus, it was pine. Okay? It was actually, we had a great logging industry in northern Arizona. And this decision also says, would you believe it? Talks about how the EPA was ruled to be unconstitutional. Page 11. Ruled to be unconstitutional in the early 1970s. Wouldn't you like to know about that? The EPA cannot tell your state what to do. Because why? Your state is not subject to federal direction. And the EPA is federal direction. Okay? Let's go on. Residual state sovereignty was also implicit, of course, in the Constitution's conferral upon Congress of not all governmental powers, but only discrete enumerated ones. See, I told you, Scalia made a mistake. There was only very few powers. Now, where do we see in the Constitution what powers are granted to the federal government? Article 1, Section 8. It's called the enumerated powers. There's very few of them, maybe 17. Let's go over this for an example. We're kind of here on a law enforcement type thing tonight, aren't we? We're here to support a guy running for sheriff. That's why I came from Arizona, so that you would know that this guy is the real deal, and he's a constitutional sheriff, and he knows and understands that it's his job to protect you from the wolves. Okay? Yeah. So, let's see. Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. How many law enforcement powers did the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, grant to the Congress or the federal government? Don't say zero. It's not zero. It's not zero. It's almost zero, but it's not zero. Everybody wants to say zero. It's not zero. 4. Do you know how many they've stolen and taken upon themselves? It's about 5,000. Do you think they've gone outside Article 1, Section 8 just a little bit? Just a little bit. Now, let's go over what are the 4 powers in Article 1, Section 8 relating to law enforcement that are granted to the federal government. Treason. Don't you wish the FBI would investigate treason? That'd never get out of Washington, D.C. Those poor guys would be so overworked, we would be the first ones to tell them, please give those guys more help. You know, hire more FBI agents. These guys have too much to do. Second one, counterfeiting. Third one, felonies committed on the high seas. And fourth, offenses against treaties. And remember, the Constitution says that treaties are to be made only in pursuance of the Constitution. If they're made outside the Constitution, you better have a sheriff there to protect you. Because this small arms treaty that is being considered through Hillary Clinton and the United Nations, if it gets approved by our Congress, your small arms are going to be confiscated. And you better have a sheriff that knows and understands that that's never going to happen here. And we need to put sheriffs together in this movement so that they can take preemptive action against the federal government and tell them, if you ever come in here to take guns away from any of our citizens, it will not be tolerated, so don't even think about it. It will not be allowed in Stevens County or in any other county where you get sheriffs that know and understand their duty. The county sheriff, America's last hope. That's where they can learn it, right there. So let's go on. The great innovation of this design was that our citizens would have 2 political capacities, one state and one federal. We all get that, right? Get the next line. This is the kicker here. Each protected from incursion by the other. Who's supposed to protect you from the incursions of Washington, D.C.? Of the federal government? What did it just say here? The United States Supreme Court, Mack, Prince versus U.S., said each protected from incursion by the other. State or federal? Yeah. The state of Washington and its political subdivisions are responsible for protecting you from the incursions of the federal government.